Broadcasting live from the glorious eastern coast of Australia to the darkest corner of your greatest fears. Prepare yourself for terrifying tales of yowies, UFOs, paranormal anomalies, and much more. Nothing is impossible and nothing is off limits. Welcome to Believe the Night Shift with your host, Cade Moyer.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good night. It is a pleasure to be with you wherever you may be joining us from. We are broadcasting live to Facebook and YouTube. So if you are watching this live, comment and let me know where you're listening from, because I am always interested to find out where people are. I love to see how far this show stretches. My name is Cade Moyer, and I'm your guide on tonight's journey. And if you wish to join me, we will have some open lines later in the show. Currently, they are closed, but we do have a special guest joining us. On tonight's show, we are joined by content creator and outdoorsman Craig Zammit. Craig has two YouTube channels, and one of them is the Bushcraft and Camping Adventures, and his other one is the Paranormal and Cryptid Adventures. Craig Zammit, welcome to the show, mate.
Okay, thanks for having me, mate. Pleasure to be here.
It is awesome to have you on. I am a very, very big fan of all the work that you do, mostly because you go that extra mile and you actually do video, which is just something so abstract to me at this kind of stage of my life of my content making journey. But you do a fantastic job, and all credit to you, mate. I don't know how you pump it out.
It's got to be a bit of a labor of love, doesn't it? I don't think anyone would be crazy enough to do it otherwise. But it's good fun putting it together. Each video is like a little piece of very average and crappy art, and I just do my best with it. And if people enjoy it, excellent. A little bit of a bonus, right?
Absolutely, mate. And that's the thing. Like, you really got to go out there and make that stuff for yourself, because if you try to make it for the masses, so to say, if you try to please everyone, you're going to please no one. And it's better to make it for yourself. And I think that's way more genuine. And you're very, very genuine in the content that you make.
That's the only way to do it. People often like, I mean, I'm a high school teacher, and the kids always say, "Sir, why don't you just go put a yowie suit on? You'll get 1 million views." And you know what, Kate? It probably is that simple, but it's not about the views. It's not about that. It's about engaging that passion, that very small sliver of the population that we all are, having the mysterious and the unknown, and trying to learn more and unearth the truth and all that good stuff. And it's not easy, when sometimes you just want to go camping and do nothing at all. But you got to do what you got to do, and I love it, man. It's a good time, and if you can spread that awareness and understanding of the big guy himself, then even better.
Absolutely, mate. And one of the things that I have to really give you heaps and heaps of credit for is that you go out there and you do this completely alone, just by yourself. And personally, I think you're probably a bit of a madman because you could. I always worry that you're going to end up as a missing 411 individual going out there on your own, and someone's going to make a bloody Blair Witch movie of your lost footage one day.
Mate, Blair Witch is one of my favorite all-time movies, so don't get me started on that one. I love that film. Look, man, I'll be honest with you. It's almost a form of meditation. I mean, you literally meditate while you're out there anyway, but just the sort of person I am, I just crave that solidarity. Is that the word? Solitary? I don't know the word I'm looking for, but I crave it. And going out there and doing it on my own, I also feel that you've only got to deal with my energy. And people who have been following my stuff on my Paranormal Encrypted Adventures channel know that I'm very big on the energetic aspect of the yowies. And you bring other people along, and it's just an unknown quantity. So I love being out there. I don't get scared. I don't think there's anything to fear. People often ask me, actually, I don't fear a yowie. People will think I'm an idiot for feeling that way, but I don't think there's anything to fear. I think they're peaceful beings, and you do the right thing by them, and they'll do the right thing by you. So what's the fear but fear itself?
That is that's very deep, much deeper than I thought we would be going. But personally, I think you're mad if you you think every Yowie's going to be a nice one, mate, because you know people have bad days, and I'm sure Yowies have bad days.
Absolutely.
You know, I could imagine that one day someone's going to capture the clear picture of a Yowie, and that Yowie's going to go back to his missus at home, and she's going to absolutely be filthy on him and say, mate, you weren't blurry, you weren't shaking, and you just might be in her way that day.
You never know, man. Everything's possible, right? As you say, there's good days and bad days, and if that happens to cross my path and I come into a yowie on a bad day, I'll get out of his way or get out of her way and go home very disappointed that my camping trip got ruined. That's the biggest threat. Otherwise, people tell me other things, like, you have Dean Harrison and the boys on, and Dean's got some personal stories of aggressive yowies, but I've been lucky enough so far. So cross fingers and hope for the best going forward.
Well, mate, the thing is, at the end of the day, if you do run into an aggressive yowie and you survive, it's going to make for some brilliant content.
That's the hope, right? That's the hope. At least give me something for my bruises and my bashed ego. Something like that anyway.
Absolutely. So, man, I am always curious because I'm not really much of a bushman myself. The outdoors doesn't really agree with me too much, mostly because where I live, it seems to be 37 degrees at night. And during the day, it's about twice that. So going outside is almost a death sentence. I am always highly impressed that you do this, but I have to ask, like, when you're out there on your own, you say you don't get scared, but I know you've run into some really weird things out there. So, mate, let's talk about some of the weird stuff that you've run into, because there might be people who are listening to this broadcast tonight or on the replay on Believe Plus, and they may not be overly aware of who you are. And personally, I think they should absolutely go check out your YouTube channels, because I think you do a fantastic whole bunch of content on there. And but you have had some run-ins with some very interesting things on there. So, mate, I've got a list in front of me, and I'm gonna go through the weirdest one at the top, because I think it's a really great discussion point. And what we'll do is we'll probably open up the phone lines a little bit later on the show if anyone wants to ask you some questions. But you said you had and I'm gonna read this like word for word: the smiling spider walking yowie.
Oh.
Explain this.
The craziest one you could pull out of the bag, that one.
Yeah.
Well, let me just preface by saying that that some of these stories that I'll tell you tonight, some have been shown on the channel and some haven't. Some are coming from upcoming episodes that haven't aired yet. So you get yourself a few little exclusives here, lucky you, Cade.
Oh, cheeky.
Yeah, and look, and those who don't know my channel as well, I've actually changed the format, and I've just started literally this weekend or maybe next weekend, depending on whether I can get the editing finished, is starting yowie season. So I'm not going to head out and do any bushcraft and camping for a while. It's going to be all hands on deck, full research, instead of spreading myself thin, and doing bushcraft content and yowie content on the one trip. Now I'm just focusing on yowie stuff. So, and I've already done a few trips doing this, and it's paid off. So that's a little bit of change that people might be seeing. But this particular incident, you really picked the most woo, the most out there, the most speculative, the most crazy that you could throw at me. So people need to understand, or at least try to understand, an aspect of the yowie, and at least what I believe and what my research has kind of pointed me down this path. And believe me, when I started, I was full flesh and blood crew. I had zero illusions that they were anything but some kind of rare species of something. But as I've progressed in this, it's definitely gone down the weird and wonderful little path that can happen with this kind of topic. And what I tend to think might be possible is that these things can take other forms other than the yowie that we would all, the Bigfoot, the Sasquatch that we all visualize in our minds whenever we talk about this topic. And it seems that what you see in the moment, at least in this one circumstance for myself, what I saw in this occasion, which I'll get to in a second, wasn't exactly what seems to really be the reality of the situation. So a weird and wonderful warning for everyone listening. This is a crazy one. So I'm sitting at my old base camp, which was Base Camp Bobby. Anyone who follows my bushcraft channel will be able to visualize Base Camp Bobby. And I'm sitting by the fire. It was about 10 o'clock at night, if I recall correctly. And I saw a possum walk just on the edge of the light of the fire. So just where the darkness and the light kind of met, and everything's a little blurry and a little bit, you can't quite see what you're seeing. But I saw a possum walking past my sight, and I'm like, hey, possum, didn't think anything of it. And that was it for that encounter. And you're like, what? That's not weird at all. But it's post outing that the weirdness started with this one, in that for some reason that encounter for days and days stayed in my mind. I didn't know why. And as I thought about it, I started dreaming about it. And I'm like, why am I thinking about this bloody possum? It's just a possum. Why am I caring about this possum? And the thing that kept coming to me was its eyes. I just kept picturing how its eyes were really glowing. They were, I don't know what it was, but in the moment, I just noticed these possum's weird eyes. And as the days progressed, I started dreaming about this possum. And every time I had the dream, and I'm saying multiple times I had this dream, and in the moment, like at the time when it was occurring, I'm like, why am I dreaming about this? This is stupid. Like, it's just a possum, dude. But in the dream, it's almost as if the form of the possum slowly fades away. And what is left with me is an image of something else in my mind's eye, completely unrelated to a possum. And as I say, this is a really, really out there story. But what I'm starting to see in my mind's eye is not a possum at all, but it's a yowie on its stomach, spider walking, like you've heard before. Now, when I was picturing this, I didn't know that yowies did that. So on all fours, almost like Fred Flintstone twinkle toeing across the floor, like almost as if they were this thing was kind of using its fingers to. Didn't look like gravity was affecting it. It's really strange. I can't quite describe it right. And it was looking at me with this Cheshire cat grin on its face, like really cheesy, unusual, out of place, smiley grin looking thing. And this vision just kept coming to me. And I don't know why it stuck in my memory. And so I'm like, okay, this is weird. It feels to me like I saw something in our reality, but then what was really happening was that was a cover or a veil for what was really walking around my campsite. Now, take a breath, because if that wasn't weird enough, we're about to get another level of weirdness. And I'm not always this unusual with my research, but I do always say, whatever gets you there. If you've got to go down a weird path to access truth, I'm open to it. So be it. I won't judge it. I will walk that path and see what comes out of it. So I have a friend, and again, people who follow my work will be familiar with her. Her name is Fifi, and she is a professionally trained Reiki practitioner, clairvoyant, energy frequency healer. and she does energy frequency healing on animals. And now, why am I telling you this story? Because what she's developed, and she has a gift. She's not quite normal. Let's just say that. If in a very good way, she's done things with animals that make no logical sense. She'd probably be an interesting guest to have on the show, to be honest. But she's talked to animals to heal them, and with absolutely verifiable returns. For example, she treated a horse that was not eating its food, was not running around, was getting sickly. The owner didn't know what to do. In desperation, went to Fifi. Fifi communicated with this horse, and the horse said, "I missed my yellow blanket." And Fifi's like, "Did the horse used to have a yellow blanket?" And the owner flipped out. "How did you know about the yellow blanket? I lost it." And she's like, "Yeah, the horse wants the yellow blanket back and everything will be okay." So the owner went and got another yellow blanket, gave it to the horse, and the horse started eating, running around, completely normal again. She's got countless stories like this, where it's just verifiable communications with animals.
That's
Make of it
incredible.
what you will.
That's incredible. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
The human connection with animals always blows me away, because I think there is a almost like an unspoken language between them, because you know your dog knows when you're sad, you know, like animals
sure.
have a way of picking up on human emotion without there being any kind of verbal interaction happening between the creatures. So I think that is incredible to hear. I think it's really mind-blowing stuff, and she sounds like one of the most interesting people you know.
Yeah, well, no, that goes without saying, but I think it's got to do with the energetic or consciousness or field of energy that surrounds everybody. I think if you can tap into that energy, be it intentionally as she does or unintentionally as you know your dog would do or you would do when you're close with that animal, I think communication can take place. So the reason I've gone down this path is because I went to her and I said, "Fifi, what do you reckon the odds that we just give it a crack?" I said, "I've been doing this yowie stuff." She didn't even know what a yowie was. She's like, "The chocolates?" I'm like, "No, not the chocolates." I'm like, "Bigfoot." And she's like, she looks at me like, "Come on, man. I know I talk to animals, but what are you talking about?" So she didn't even know what the bloody things were. And I said, "Let's just give it a crack. Let's just see if we can communicate. I'll give you the vague location and, et cetera, et cetera." And she's successfully communicated with something. Now, whether that's an animal in the bush, an elemental spirit, a yowie, a ghost, her own psyche, my own psyche, I can't confirm, I can't say. But she's connected with something, and this something is allegedly a yowie named Najikam. And that is what me and my kids like to say is our yowie Najikam. And I've done a few communication sessions with her. They're all on my channel if anyone's interested to go see the results. And a lot of the information syncs up really well with a lot of indigenous peoples across the world about what they believe to do with yowies, Bigfoot, Sasquatch. So I said to her one day during this communication, I'm like, there was one day at my campsite, I explained the situation with the possum, and I explained how it kept, recurring. And basically Najikam, according to her, lost his mind, started jumping around, like getting all like in sync. She can visualize, sometimes she gets visuals in the communication. She goes, "I can see him jumping around. He's getting really excited. He's nodding his head. Yes, yes, yes." He says, "That was me. That was me." So according to this communication, this dream that I had allegedly of this yowie spider walking in front of my campsite with red eyes and a huge Cheshire cat smile was, if you can take all of this in, was potentially a yowie masking itself and then communicating with me post-trip to kind of say, "Yeah, that was me and I wasn't you, and, how you doing?" So I don't know, Cade, make of that what you will. That is undoubtedly the weirdest thing that's ever happened.
I think when it comes to the yowies, you really have to have a very, very open mind. And, it is not uncommon to hear of things of like mind speak and things like that. So, would it be too out of the realm to say this maybe was a mind speak? Maybe this was like a mind projection. It was placing a scene in your head. Who knows? That's...
Look, I won't lie. I feel silly when I tell that story. Cards on the table. That story makes me feel a little silly because I know how it sounds. And people that know me or people that don't know me, even worse, people might not realize that if it feels like rubbish, I don't even talk about it. There's lots of things that happens on trips that never gets reported because it just seems it's just too far of a stretch. But sometimes, as you say, this is not, we're not talking about elephants in Africa. We're talking about a possibly interdimensional being, a possible energy being, there's so many possibles around what these things are that I really don't discount anything if I'm being honest about a situation. Maybe we should never discount anything in this regard. I don't know, but everything's possible.
I'm with you on that, because I think when you start to build your own box about what these things are, and you start to put this into it, you could potentially be leaving so much on the table that could be quite valuable in the sense of research, of information, evidence. It's when you are dealing with this type of thing, you have to be super open-minded.
Absolutely. I mean, look at the platypus. Before that thing was found, people just assumed that was a cryptid, duck bill, beaver's tail. The bloody thing glows at night if you put it under UV light, has a pouch lace. Like, that animal makes absolutely no sense whatsoever.
Yeah.
Yet it's real. It exists. I mean, a panda bear, you wouldn't believe that was real unless you saw it. It's giant, cute, little, that makes no sense. But that just eats bamboo. And there's a lot of there's jellyfishes that are immortal. They're literally immortal. Unless you squish them, they ain't going to die. There's things that we don't understand. So who are we to say that there's a being that can shapeshift or travel interdimensionally, or is a fundamentally energetic being that can come in and out of this reality? Who are we to say that's not a possibility?
I'm with you. I'm with you. It's fun. It just makes the world more fun, because the world needs more fun, in my opinion.
And the people of the world need to realize we don't know everything. There's some things we don't know, and if anyone claims to know everything about everything, then they're just as stupid as the next person, because there's a fundamental lesson there that they're not getting. We don't know everything, and we'll live entire lifetimes and we won't know everything, and that's just how it is. The world is probably stranger than any of us realize.
Absolutely. There's a quote that I love, and it's the more I learn, the less I know. And
100%.
That happens to me every time I speak to someone on this podcast, because every time I speak to someone, I learn something new, and it blows my mind, because I love the human element in any type of cryptid, paranormal, or UFO encounter, because that, at the end of the day, is that's the part that makes it important to me.
Yeah, and you must get it more than anybody. People looking at you like you're a nut because you say, I heard this story and I heard that story, from people that assume they know everything. I mean, look at my good mate, David, that was on the show, that, he can literally speak to dead people. Like, that is on another level crazy. That's so unbelievably fascinating, and exposes so many things we don't know about our reality. You can never claim you know everything. So, Yowie's not so much of a big deal when you really sit back and think about what's possible.
Definitely. It's I have to let you in on a funny little thing that happened to me the other day. Is my daughter came up to me and goes, "Oh, Dad, you're a weirdo." And I had to laugh, because I've got this big self-portrait on my own wall, because I'm a bit of a wanker like that, where I'm kind of surrounded by yowies, monsters, UFO, aliens, and like ghosts. And my dad and my daughter goes to me, "Yeah, Dad, you're a weirdo." And I said to her, "It's okay to be a weirdo, because it's better to be a weirdo than to be boring." And she goes, "Can I be a weirdo too?" And I said, "You sure can."
Yes, that's awesome. That's parenting done right, mate.
Absolutely.
I always tell everyone that'll listen, like, don't be normal. Normal's never won before. Just be different. Be yourself. And if that includes being a bit weird, embrace it. Own it. Love it. There's no other way.
Yeah. Yeah, I absolutely agree. Mate, I do want to jump into another one of your a couple of encounters that you've had here, because some that really stand out to me as quite unusual. You've seen some weird lights in the bush. So what do you think those are? Like, can you give me a bit of a rundown of those?
Well, there's so many different theories, and this is another one that I think it falls into that category of we don't know, but we can speculate, and we can use what we've learned and try and put the pieces together. So visually, I've seen it on 3 separate occasions, and on every single occasion, this is no word of lie. Again, I don't lie. I don't see the purpose to it. The second I tell a lie on this podcast, on my channel, about any of this, is the second. 100% of my research is completely pointless. So none of this is a word of a lie. Nothing I ever say is a word of a lie, because what if I was going to lie? I'd have a lot better encounters than dreaming of a possum that turned into a yowie, obviously. So, visually, I've seen ones that look like a dancing light in the distance. We're talking about thick bushland. People nowhere near me, obviously, because I usually, make sure I go deep so that I can't be found. Um, and about 50 meters off in the distance, just like a white light that appears to be dancing. And that's the only way I can describe it. I don't know if that gives the visual that I'm hoping it gives, but it's just stationary yet kind of dancing. And then as I'm watching it, it just like you flick your fingers, and it's gone, completely gone without a trace. And later, when I walk to the spot to investigate, obviously, absolutely nothing there. But that same night, I hear yowie calls and I have a lot of weirdness going on. Another time, the classic that you hear that everyone says, like a kind of floating orb in the tree line. This one particular night, I was down by a creek, really beautiful spot, actually, one of my favorite spots I've ever been to, and kind of up the bank of the hill that was, resting against the creek, I guess you could say, in the tree line up there, I see just an orb just floating through the trees, just bouncing around, kind of playing around in the leaves of the trees. I don't know what that was. And I've seen another light which matches that description very similarly, just in the distance, less obvious than that one was. But again, just a kind of a light, an orb dancing around in the trees. So, what are these things, man? My personal belief from everything that I've researched myself, from obviously listening to other researchers and other experts on the area, if you put me in a corner and you said, Zamet, what is this? I would have to say it seems to me like that may be the energetic form of a yowie. And I don't know this to be true. I have no evidence. I have no proof. But if you think that these beings, right, are possibly an energetic being in their essence, which is what I do believe, and that obviously energy, you can make the argument that kind of go anywhere it wants in any way it wants, but my mind thinks that there still needs to be a form for that, and that these lights that we see in the bush could very well simply be the energetic form of the Yowies doing whatever it is they're doing out there. Be that balancing the earth's energies themselves, be that just living their life and going about their daily existence as an energetic / physical form. That's one thing I still haven't got my finger on. That what are Yowies doing when they're in energetic form? What are Yowies doing when they're in physical form? I tend to lead towards, energy work, but that's a whole other topic. But that's what I think, mate. I think they could be Yowies in their purest energetic form, moving from one place to the other. I prove it? I can't prove it to you. That's just what I think.
No, and I think it's a really good theory because it's really not uncommon to hear of orbs and balls of light or, just funny things like that going on around areas of high Yowie activity, even before or after a Yowie or a Sasquatch encounter happens. So
yeah,
I think there's definitely a connection between the two. But have you, in saying that, like, have you ever seen any kind of lights in the sky or UFOs or anything like that as well?
Not at all. Like absolute zeros when it comes to my Yowie stuff. Never even remotely. I wish I did, because that stuff is, super exciting to consider that you might have something from another place or another time, and you're witnessing it. But no, nothing at all. The only time once in my life, I believe it was the early days of the CE5 protocol, which Gary Lynn, how you doing, mate, is very adept at. But I gave that a crack just one night, and I watched a star start moving around in the sky, and that's the only time I've ever thought I ever saw anything like that. But I'm not discounting the alien connection to the Yowie, because as I said before, who are we to say unless we have some kind of evidence or proof either way. But I've never come across anything that would suggest a connection. But again, certainly not denying it. Just never had that experience myself.
I will I will fight in your corner I will jump in on every theory that a guest comes onto the show with, because I know it will just infuriate like some people who are that will call themselves, yowie researchers or yowie experts, just because they decided to give themselves that title. They didn't earn it or anything like that. But
don't get me started.
Australia, and it's not just Australia. Bigfoot, Sasquatch, they're all the same. And I just know it, like it really makes their blood boil, and I just don't understand. So for me, I'm putting my hand up and saying, yeah, mate, I 100% agree. These things are definitely aliens.
Yeah, it's look. I'll be honest. When it comes to all the researchers out there, quote unquote, and lots of people would probably put me in that category as well. That's fine. Go for your life. But I'm at a point right now where I think, honestly, 95% of the stuff that you're reading, see, is rubbish. And I'm genuinely willing to go that high. I think 95% of all the findings in this field, sadly, is arrogance and ego taking over and people wanting 15 minutes of fame. And it's a real shame. I don't know why this field attracts that kind of thing, but it really does. And I'll be honest, that's the thing that gets on my nerves big time, because there's guys like, look, the Australian scene is actually really healthy. It's actually a really good core of guys and girls who actually get it, and they're not out to make money or to get famous, but they approach it the right way. They're authentic people, and they're just reporting what they see, and it's actually really encouraging. But there's a lot of people out there just putting out the rubbish, mate. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about, and some of them get a lot more success, because they're making it up, and it's very disappointing. But that's why authenticity is the most important thing. I also feel that the Yowies know if you're in it for an agenda as well. I think they're not going to go anywhere near you.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that one. I think they would definitely be picking up someone's vibe if they're going out there to kind of cause trouble or cause a bit of a ruckus for inappropriate reasons. I would imagine that these things have some sort of emotional intelligence to them, because you just look at the reports of them getting angry, getting almost having a sense of humor to themselves. It's I wouldn't say it's out of reality at all.
One thing that I've absolutely felt, and I've felt some things firsthand that I could tell you about, which still just rocked my world. I still can't believe that the kind of thing happened. But in my communication sessions that I've done with our Yowie Nagicam through Fifi, and again, I'm well aware of the grain of salt that needs to be taken with that. So everyone thinking, the obvious thoughts, I'm well aware of that, completely well aware of it. But I do trust Fifi. She's healed me personally many times. She's amazing at what she does, but they have an absolute sense of humor. It's quite amazing how joyful, and this is just bad word, but silly they can be. Like, some of the communications that don't make it to the channel is just this, whatever this being is that we're communicating with, just being an absolute, just being a silly, funny, normal kind of personality. Nothing foreboding, nothing more than you or me. Just this silly, likes to have a laugh. Actually, I've even had a joke cracked, and it's like, I had no idea that was even a thing that existed. So, I mean, maybe some of these encounters are just, always having a laugh and go and watch this. I'll mess with this human. You never know, man. You never know.
I would think so. You just look at every human that you've ever met in your life, and every personality is different. You've got jokers, you've got aggressive people, you've got timid people, you've got very overly emotional people. And there is nothing to say that doesn't translate to the, potential, the primate world, to the Yowie world, to the Sasquatch world.
For sure. And why wouldn't it? I mean, animals have different sense of humors as well.
Yeah.
And people who communicate with ghosts will tell you that they also have different personalities as well, obviously. And some of the stories that we've all listened to on your show are legitimately terrifying, and they must have been really bad people before they crossed over, because some of that stuff, Ox House, was it called? That was creepy.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's definitely a listener favorite. And to all the people that might be listening to this, and you're in the army, I am not telling you where that house is. I'm not even joking. I would have probably received about, it would be over 50 emails and
wow.
messages of people in the service kind of just going, hey, is that this house? Is that here? Is that? And it's just like, no,
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell you. For one, I don't know where it is. I have a rough idea. But yeah, I can't give that information away because one, that house sounds so dangerous. And two,
Yeah, it does. And like,
it's
yeah.
too private.
Yeah, look, I'm as I said at the start of the show, I really genuinely don't have any fear in this field, but that one, nah, nope, not going there, not going to that place. That's nightmare fuel. That one.
Yeah, most definitely, mate. Something that's nightmare fuel for me is hearing baby cries in the bush. So
Oh,
this is this is something that kind of comes from a little bit of Aboriginal folklore, and I don't know if it's
Yep.
Australia wide, but it's definitely from my region. Is that like if you hear babies crying in the bush, you don't go in because you'll be taken.
yeah, I've heard a few different things, and things that respectfully I don't repeat because they've been told to me in confidence, and I won't be repeating them. But when it comes to Indigenous peoples, at least in this part of Australia, there's like undeniably a history there. Um, as real as there's a kangaroo in the bush, the Indigenous Australians will tell you about the yowie and their different names and the different characteristics and the past histories that they've had with them, all very significant. Again, unfortunately, I wish I could repeat it, but I swore that I wouldn't. However, when it comes to babies, that was one of the creepier things. It didn't scare me as such, but it just made me feel awkward because, as I've already said, I do have maybe a naively positive outlook on the yowie. But why would you mimic a baby's cry? So I was at where was I? I was at what's now called Hookie's Hole, which is my most recent base camp, the one that I just announced. Unfortunately, I have to shut it down because the rain killed the bloody base camp there. But I was there one day and it was about midday. And clear as day, clear as day. You've got kids, I've got kids. You know when a baby cries. You get that parental, your ears prick up. You know the feeling. Anyone who's got kids know the feeling. And I'm in the middle of the bush, near no one, near nothing. And I just hear babies crying. And it's the weirdest thing. And I won't lie, as time passes, I mean, if you find the video, I can't remember which video it is. I reported on the video, but I'm fairly cool, calm, and collected about it. But as time passes, that just creeps me out because why a baby? That's just the most vulnerable, aspect of humanity, and the one thing that we will run to. Most humans will run to save a child. It's so. What is the purpose of the baby crying noise? But for me, it sounded about 50 meters away down the valley, which I couldn't get to anyway. And I heard it 3 times, and then I never heard it again. And it was a windy day as well. So I need to put that out there because, look, we know wind carries sound. And for all I know, there was a family doing a bushwalk, 300 meters away. And the baby's cry just pierced and, carried over to me. But it didn't, because the sound actually came from the opposite direction of the wind, just for the record. But I heard it 3 times, mate, like as clear as day, a baby crying. And if I didn't know what I knew about the yowie and the tendency to mimic and all that, I probably would have gone off looking for the thing to see what am I hearing here. But that is the weirdest. That to me, that's the weirdest one of all of them. Why a baby? Why? I don't understand.
Yeah, it's one of 2 reasons, in my opinion. One, it's to absolutely tap into that whole primal instinct of trying to go save a baby, and then basically it is just bait to potentially take said person away. Or 2, it's a baby yowie.
I mean, it could be a baby yowie, like it really could be. And who are we to say it's not? But then if it was, arguably, I feel that if I was to hear it once at base camp, that it would probably happen at least one more time. Or, I mean, again, anyone with kids will tell you that you can keep a baby quiet for a while, but not for 12 hours without a peep. And it feels like if there was a baby yowie around my site at that point in time, why didn't I hear it again on that trip? I mean, maybe they just walked away. Maybe they were just passing through. It's very possible. I don't know. I'd like to think it was a baby yowie. That's a lot more fun, Or maybe they're testing us. Maybe it's like talk about emotional intelligence. How will this human react to hearing a child. What will this human do? I don't know the purpose of such a thing, but that's a possibility. But I've got a story that, according to an Indigenous friend of mine, was very possibly a juvenile yowie observing me. So, and it's a similar kind of area. Do you want me to talk about that one?
Yeah, mate. I would absolutely love for you to talk about that.
So, well, this is probably my favorite encounter because it's the most undeniable that I've had. And of course, what else would happen in this day and age except for that my camera was running out of batteries and it was switched off and I didn't get to record the bloody thing. Of course, because that's the way the world works sometimes. But it was really recently, and this is one of those trips that hasn't made it to YouTube yet. So this is one of the little exclusives. I returned to Base Camp Bobby, which I don't know if everyone remembered. I created basically a double A-frame kind of lean-to structure that I camped at and had so many videos at for so many times. It was the same site where I've recorded numerous Yowie calls. Absolutely my most active site. But I abandoned it because I realized I was nowhere near as deep as I thought. Nowhere near as deep as I thought. As time went by, there was someone that would constantly have raves nearby and that would just kind of kill it. And one time I had people literally stumble across my site and I recorded it on my trail cam. So I ended up abandoning the site. But it was only like maybe a month ago. And I said, I'm just going to go back just for a visit for old time's sake. And so I've gone back to this original site, easily my most active site, and it's about 3 o'clock in the morning. And just to set the scene, obviously I'm all alone on my own. It's a big full moon. The forest is lit up like a convenience store. I can see every leaf, every twig. If there was a grub crawling on the ground, I probably could have seen it at 3 o'clock in the morning. It was unusually bright, and that's a very important detail for this story. So I had my, it was a beautiful night too. So I had my, the fly was not on my tent. So it was just me and, the see-through mesh of my tent. So I was just sleeping out in the bush. I could see everything all night. So I got woken up around 3 a.m. by hearing footsteps. Anyone who goes to the bush, that's nothing to talk about. That's an animal, some description, walking past, no big deal. It just roused me from my sleep and, I rolled over and went to go back to sleep. And then I heard chewing, and something that I put together after the fact was this was the third time I've heard such chewing. I remember it on literally the first night I ever went camping. If you go to my bushcraft and camping adventures channel, the very first video, I heard it that night. And there was another video where I was camping at Kingfisher Falls. Is it Kingfisher? I think that's what it's called. If it's not, oh well. And I heard it again that night. And this was the third time I've heard it. It sounds like teeth chewing bone. There's no other description for that. It sounds like teeth chewing bone. I heard this and I went, oh, that sounds really, really close. So I sat up in my tent and I just turned around over my back shoulder, and less, I reckon, a meter or a meter and a half away from me was a undeniable black figure looking like it was maybe hunched over. If you picture a teenage human, maybe 15, 16, on its haunches, kind of hunched over trying to look big. That would be about the size of it to give you a visual reference point. And I've looked at this thing, and I'm not kidding, Kate. It was a meter, maybe 2 max away from exactly where I was. I've just stared at it because whatever this was picked up absolutely zero moonlight. And I'm saying every leaf, every twig, everything in the bush was bright as it can be at night. But this thing was as black as the darkest shadow. Zero light being picked up from it. So I looked at it and it was very slightly moving, although that could have been tricks of light. I wasn't sure. And I looked at it and I've gone, hello? To try and get a reaction out of it. And obviously nothing happened. Now, this is the annoying part. This particular night, my headlamp and my 2 light sources had all run out of batteries, which is normally not a drama, but I had no way to flick on a torch and point it at whatever this was to illuminate it. That was out the books. My phone had 10% battery left, so it was off. So it was leaving it off in case something happened, so I could turn it on in the middle of the night and record. So I said, hello. Nothing happened. I looked down to pick up my phone and turn it on, and as I look up, this thing has completely disappeared. Oh. I don't know where it went. I don't know how it went, because absolutely not a leaf, not a twig, not a noise, nothing, dead silence, nothing out of the, it just disappeared like into thin air. I'm just sat there looking at this, what now is nothing there. And I'm just my brain is so confused. It's one of those moments where, like, did I even just see that? You start doubting your own mind, you know, because it's just so out of left field. The next morning, I wake up and I go, and this bit, thankfully, I did have enough battery to record. I went to the exact spot where I believe this thing to be sitting, and fair enough, in the ground, there genuinely appeared to be some kind of depression, and you can see where the leaves have been moved and some of the dirt underneath has been exposed. Now, we're in the bush. I'm well aware that can happen, and it doesn't have to be anything weird, but in the exact location where this thing was, and nowhere else looked like that, it was just this one spot, and there was also a weird wet patch. I probably should have taken a leaf and kept that for scientific reasons, but there was a weird patch of wetness there as well. So I don't know what this was, but I put it to my Indigenous buddy, and he said it could very well have been a juvenile checking you out. He said the size could very well have been a juvenile yowie. Now we go back to the baby cries, similar area. Maybe the baby grew up and come to check me out when I visited again. You know, haven't been in the neighborhood for over 12 months. I don't know, but that one, I love that encounter. I wish I had recorded it, Kate, because it was something else, man. It was something else.
That's crazy, man. Like the I can't get over the fact that you're just like so nonchalant of hello. Just trying to
but dude,
communicate with
if I wanted to do something, it would have done something. It had me dead to the world in a tent. It could look at me. If I wanted to do something, it would have done it. You know, that was my theory. And like this thing obviously is curious. Whatever this is, it may not be a yowie, but we've all heard the many stories that sometimes they can be blacker than black. And I never understood that until this. So I don't know, man.
Craig,
I don't know, but I love that encounter.
Craig, I love the way your mind works, man. You were so different to anybody else I know that, you know, most people would probably just like sit there and just, you know, prepare for the worst. But yeah, you just stick your head out and just kind of friendly as can be. Hello. I love it. I think that's great.
Truth be told, the only reason I didn't get out of my tent was pure laziness. Because when I sleep at night, I probably shouldn't do this when I'm in the camp and in the bush. But I just in my boxer shorts, and the amount of effort to put all my clothes on, put my boots on, you know, get out there, it's too much. I probably should have just jumped out of the tent and said hello to the thing. But you know, laziness is a curse sometimes. You know,
mate. It's getting out of a tent is a pain in the ass because everything gets dirty.
It really is. It's such a pain in the ass, man. It's one of my most hated things about camping, especially when you got to do that midnight piss and you got to unzip, put your shoes on, go out, freeze your ass off. Like it's a pain in the butt.
Absolutely, mate. Absolutely. Look, Craig, I'm gonna put some questions to you because we've got a couple here from the listeners. So people, if you are watching this live, please comment in the chat, whether you're on Facebook or you're on YouTube, because I can get it from both areas. If you do have a question for Craig. Now, some of these do require a little bit of prior knowledge of Craig's adventures. So what I will do is I'm going to put up the one that probably needs the most explanation first. So Rick Terry on Facebook, he has asked the question.
Hey, Rick, how you going, bro?
He says, ask Craig about the symbols he found, please. And someone else has asked, and this is to kind of follow up on that question. This is from Adam Huglo. Craig, now you have time to reflect. What do you think of the markings on the wood?
Okay, this is... I kick myself every time this gets brought up because I stupidly only have one photo and a little bit of footage. I didn't keep them. I didn't try and preserve them. I just got rid of that bed like it was nothing. It was so stupid. But the story is this, and there's a little bit of pre-story to it as well. It's kind of answered that second question. That in reflection of all of this, what happened there? Long story short, I still don't know about the symbols on the bed. But those who don't know, as you may have gathered, I have a bushcraft and camping channel where I make different structures and go out camping in the bush and all that kind of stuff. And I had, at that point, built my first ever structure, which was just a simple lean-to with a bushcraft bed. And that's just literally a few logs, you know, suspended off the floor to sleep on, nothing special. There was a night where there was probably the most intense storm I've ever felt in my life, as in, when the thunder clapped, it was as if it was literally 1 meter above my head. I felt this storm. I can't explain it any other way. It was amazing, intense, and kind of scary because I've never felt smaller in my life. On that night, I had a huge fire And this may be a little silly, but I put on, there's a band called Hai Lung, if anyone wants some weird music, Hai Lung. And I literally pretty much, they sing, you could almost describe it as nature has come to life. Music that just sounds completely unique. They play on old bones and animal skins, and it's it's weird music. But I turned that whole album up full pelt, and I literally kind of did like a little ritual around the fire, just dancing around the fire, singing, and it was quite an enjoyable evening, right? But I wonder if this had something to do with it because it's raining. There's a huge storm overhead. I've only got my tarp, keep my fire going. I'm playing this weird nature, weird music, dancing around the fire. That was the setup for the night before. The next morning, I wake up and I leave. I go home, nothing new to it. 3 weeks later, I come back to that very site and there's these symbols carved into my bed with charcoal. I'm assuming it's charcoal because it was black and the campfire was less than a meter to the right of my bed. And the symbols, they look very runic. The best that I've been, and I've put this to a lot of, well, not a lot, let's not exaggerate it, but I've put it through to a few language experts that couldn't determine what it was. And I put it on a few Facebook pages, where you get the people interested in old languages. I put it to those and no one could figure out what it was. The closest I could match to it was, I think it was an old italic script that's like very, very old. That was the closest match, but nothing matched what these symbols were. Could it just be someone stumbled across the site and decided to write something there? Absolutely, it could have been 100%. I'm definitely not discounting just someone with an education thought it would be funny to put some kind of weird message on this weird dude's bushcraft bed. It's very possible, but I've been thinking about this ever since it happened and hoping it would happen again. I've even gone to the extent of one night when there was a big storm, doing the same album, doing the same thing at the same site and see if it got repeated. And it never got repeated again. But there was just, I think it was 5 symbols, maybe 6, because there was 2 kind of on one log above and beneath each other. And yeah, I've never worked out what it meant. I still to this day don't know what I feel about it because this was before I had any true interactions with anything. I believe this, now I might be getting my timeline confused, but I believe this may have been before I even got deep into the yowie stuff. So I wouldn't have even been thinking about it. I don't know what it was. I wish I had a better answer than that. But again, I'm not going to make up lies just to sound more interesting. I don't know what it was, but there was undeniable something written on a bushcraft bed after a night of weird weather and, interesting happenings. And I don't know what it is, mate. Is it a possible yowie communication, written yowie communication, confirming a language and a willingness to communicate? Could be. Could it be a prank? Could be. I don't know. I wish I had a better answer.
Mate, one day you might find out, and that day I'm going to get you back on the show because for me,
I'd love to find out.
It's just one of the more weirder things I've seen on your YouTube channel, and it's kind of freaky. Your whole YouTube channel has this whole Blair Witch vibe to it, and I really dig it. I feel like I'm almost kind of watching a movie play out in front of me, but it's all real life, and it's a mate of mine, a guy I know, and I think that's great.
Yeah, mate, it's funny you say that because when I started this whole channel, I had this great plan, and I'm too lazy to do it. I'm definitely not going to do it now, seeing that I've gone into yowie territory. But I had this whole thing. I was going to do like a low-key found footage, pretend I disappeared and, milk it out over weeks. I had this whole idea to do like a Blair Witch style thing. So it's funny that you say it's got a Blair Witch vibe about it because I had this whole plan. But never did it. But yeah, man, I don't know. One day if I ever find out, you'll be the first person I tell. Trust me.
Well, mate, before we wrap up tonight, because we've got 5 minutes left before our hour is up. But where can people find you? Like, what do people do to learn more about Craig Zammit?
It's pretty simple. If you like the yowies and the weird stuff and all that aspect of my of what I do, then it's Paranormal and Cryptid Adventures. Obviously, I have a Facebook page of the same name as well. Very reachable. If you send me any messages, I'll reply every single time. So that's the YouTube channel, Paranormal and Cryptid Adventures. And as I said previously, I'm about to launch into a whole bunch of content there with some really interesting finds and things that don't quite make sense. So there's a really good season 3. I do Yowie Finding Australia's Sasquatch, which is a little series that I do, and this upcoming Yowie season will be season 3 of that little drama series. I don't know what the words are, but that'll be coming very soon. And if you just enjoy watching an idiot out in the bush being a dork and camping, maybe building the odd cool thing, then you can catch me on bushcraft and camping adventures. And I believe I still have a presence on TikTok with that, and I believe I still got a presence on Instagram with that. But of course, there's a Facebook page there as well for that. Yeah, and that's pretty much me. No, nothing more exciting than a YouTube page and a Facebook page at the moment. But yeah, that's pretty much how you can find me and all my work.
No, and it's all fantastic too. So for those listening, I highly recommend going and checking out Craig's content because he puts a lot of effort into it. And he really does make you want to go out into the bush. Maybe not experiencing the things that he does, because I think that is maybe just a little bit too much for a city slicker like me. But
Cade, mate, I was going to invite you out. What are you doing? Are you saying no?
Hey,
you saying no?
Look, if I'm in your part of the world, I'll do it. 100%, I'll do it with you.
Mate, I'm going to hold you to that. You better not come to New South Wales anytime soon, because I will find you and we'll be going camping.
Mate, I will absolutely do that, and we'll make a whole series out of it. We can
It'll be good fun.
Yeah, we can do like Tales from the Bush or something, and have a really fun time doing that. But Craig, it has been an absolute pleasure having you on the show tonight. I hope you stay safe while you're out there, mate. And guys, if you are listening, if you're still watching, go check him out. He does fantastic work. Before we wrap up tonight, I do want to let you know that this show will exist on Facebook and YouTube for 1 week only, and then it will be disappearing behind the Believe Plus paid wall. So if you are only jumping on right at the end here, you still have a little bit of time to watch that before it disappears. And if you do want all the other 40 other live call-in shows, they are all exclusively available to Believe Plus members. If you want to join that, simply go to the website. That is believepod.com/plus, and you can join up for as little as $5 a month and get a whole bunch of bonus goodies there. But Craig, thank you so much for joining me tonight. It's been a pleasure talking with you.
Thanks for having me, man. I've had a good time, and yeah, everyone get on board and support Cade. He puts in so much effort and so much good content. So it's been an honor to be on the show again, mate, and hopefully we can do it again soon.
Indeed. And for all those watching, you have a fantastic weekend. You stay safe, and we will see you on the next live Believe Night Shift show. I hope you like the new name. I hope you like the new look, and the lines will definitely be open on our next call-in show. Have a good night, guys.